So I finally went and saw Evil Dead Rise, and wow, it was amazing. It was awesome. I really enjoyed it. That's my spoiler-free review. Now we're getting right into spoilers. So, I really enjoyed how this film did its theming, how it did its cinematography. Honestly, that was the best part for me. It wasn't exactly the same as the way Sam Raimi does his camera, but it was pretty similar enough. There was a lot of stuff with triangle symbols that were all over the place in this film. Many of them blink and you miss them. I really liked the fact that it was in a different setting. It wasn't in a cabin again. They brought it to an apartment building, an old apartment building that is going to be shut down or demolished or whatever. That being said, I've only seen the first season of Ash vs. Evil Dead, the television series. I do plan to watch more, and I don't know if it ties into it at all. I don't know where this sits with the rest of the films. Just to recap, I love the original Evil Dead. Evil Dead 2 is my favorite. Army of Darkness is fantastic. I was actually hoping with a lot of the references in this film we'd get to hear Natu Barata. I can't remember the words.
Natu Barata.
Plata Veratu Necktie. We didn't get that in this, but there was a reference that the audio that was listened to on the record was read actually by Bruce Campbell. At least that's what it said when I looked online. I think it's interesting that the Book of the Dead was found in the basement of this apartment complex, because this is what makes me think it's in a different universe, because when we last saw it, it was not there. Hi, yeah, this is Video Editor Zero. I totally forgot that there are 3 Books of the Dead, and this could be one of the 3. I haven't seen Army of Darkness in a while. I totally forgot about that. So, yeah, this might be in the same universe, and I just don't fucking know. I don't know, man. Let's get back to the video. The story's a little bit different, and I'm okay with them doing something multiverse-ish, because at this point it's hard to make direct sequels. I also forgot to mention I did like the Evil Dead reboot, remake, whatever it was called. I thought it was pretty well done, and it's sort of tied in with the other films still. This movie, by the way, was legitimately creepy. There was lots of things that made me, not really jump out of my seat, but made me feel creeped out. And it was legitimately spooky, which was what I liked. Because this movie's been out for so long, I actually had the theater by myself. Well, mostly to myself. I'll get to that in a minute. And so this was the first time in a long time I said out loud things like, ooh, like I generally was like, oh, like the effects were really well done. I was worried in the beginning because there was a lot of CG. I don't know if it's practical effects with CG enhancements, but it's very heavily CG done effects. And I was worried the rest of the film was going to be CG. Seems like there was still some CG effects, but a lot of them were practical, which is what I like. I don't have a problem with CG, except when it's not done very well, and the effects at the very start of the film are the ones that aren't done very well. There's a severed head at the start that is a perfect example of CG not done well. So, yeah. I like the characters in this one. I like that the film starts off the next day kind of thing, and you don't really know that right away. I think that's a great way to put it. There's maybe like 1 or 2 one-liners in this film. It doesn't really try to pull on that. It just tries to be a good movie, and that's what I really liked about it. It was a legitimately spooky Evil Dead movie, which the Evil Dead series at this point is kind of half horror, half comedy. I mean, Army of Darkness jumped the shark with a lot of that stuff, so it's not surprising they've gone that way. And to some extent, the TV show. So before getting into my final thoughts, I want to talk about something real quick. Like I mentioned earlier, when I was in the theater, I was by myself up until like the last 5-10 minutes of the film. A bunch of kids walked in and were being obnoxious and throwing things and stuff. Obviously they had snuck in. Didn't really ruin my experience, because had they walked in 30 minutes earlier, I probably would have got up and complained, but I didn't really give a fuck. They just apparently came out of another movie, obviously, and wanted to come into another theater to see something, see if they could catch another movie, do the whole sneak in thing. It's whatever. Anyways, didn't ruin my experience, but apparently they got kicked out because I talked to one of the ushers at the place and they caught them pretty quickly, so I'm not surprised. That's all I wanted to say. Now on to my final thoughts. Overall, I really enjoyed the film. I thought all the actors were great. I thought the effects were great. It was legitimately spooky. I thought the story was great. And it's only an hour and a half long, which is great because so many movies have to be like 3 hours these days. I don't think I could do 3 hours of this. Though the movie felt like it was moving slowly at first. I was like, this is not picking up as quickly as I thought it would. Though, now thinking in retrospect, it actually picked up pretty quickly. So I don't know what I was thinking. I haven't looked at any other reviews, and I noticed that Red Letter Media has uploaded their review of this movie, and I decided not to look at any of that stuff. I wanted to go in, give my thoughts first for any of that. Jay Bauman from Red Letter Media is a huge Evil Dead fan.
No, I meant the DVD special edition of the original film. Did you mean the Book of the Dead edition or the Ultimate Edition DVD? Or maybe you were talking about the limited edition Blu-ray. Did you mean the limited edition tin of Evil Dead 2? 25th anniversary Blu-ray of Evil Dead 2? Talking about the Book of the Dead edition of Evil Dead 2? Don't get me started on Army of Darkness.
I am interested to hear his perspective, but I have the sneaking suspicion, because they seem to be opposites with me sometimes, that he thought the movie sucked, and they're probably going to talk about how much it sucked.
I thought the movie was fine. Overall.
Overall, despite what reviews this film is getting, because I'm sure it's not getting the best reviews, just because it's a horror film, and horror films technically don't do well, I think this film is fantastic. If you're a fan of the Evil Dead series, it's a great addition to those films. And you don't have to know anything about Evil Dead to go into this one. You could see just this film and have no prior context to what the Necronomicon is or what the Deadites are, because it doesn't really play too much on the lore except for stuff with the Necronomicon. And that's about it. At the time of this recording, I am giving Evil Dead Rise an 8 out of 10.